I think you spoke about having co-founders. You know, you regret not starting with co-founders.
Yeah. Yeah, in some ways, yeah. I think there is no doubt about it. If I had have had one or two co-founders, I believe Foundr would be like 10 times the size. Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's taken me a lot of self-reflection, a lot of pain and torment and just like really tough times with business and life and all these different things to realize like sometimes I can just be so kind of arrogant and have this ego, like like think I can do anything and want to do everything, want to control everything, that I've been a massive constraint to my own personal growth and also like just growing Foundr because like, yeah, you just don't see it. Like you just don't see it and you just keep going and going and going. But like, yeah, I've only, I'd say these past 12 months recently, like realized kind of you need to double down on your strengths and just have other people complement your weaknesses. And that is critical. Like you can take a business so far by yourself, but it's, businesses are built by people. And, I've gone through a whirlwind of pain of hiring, firing, promoting, all these different things with the wrong people and the different stages. Like that's how you scale a business. You scale a business through people, but then also not all founders are meant to, be the CEO, right? Like so many people that they start a company, and even myself, I have the title CEO of Foundr, but like what that actually means is so different to actually what a proper CEO does. And it's taken me a while to try and learn that. And so yeah, in a roundabout way, yeah, that is a regret, not a deep regret, but I wish I had have, if I knew what I knew now, or if I started another business, like if I wanted to start a software company, I probably wouldn't start it by myself. I'd start it with somewhat of a technical co-founder or technical co-founder for sure, because I think you can get, it's so good just if you started something and just have someone care, because you can't expect your team members to care as much as you do if it's your baby. If you started the thing, no one ever will, and that's okay. Like they don't own the company, or they might only own a small share, or they're not paid. Like they're not. It's just not the same. And I think if you start a new company from scratch with somebody that cares about the business just as much as you do, but they have complementary strengths, it's just so much easier for you to play in your strength zone, and it just compounds. And that's something that it's taken me a while to work out, and something that's hurt, I think, the growth of Foundr for sure.
You said before you're so busy that you can't see it.
Yeah.
What do you think it is?
Oh man, like I'm big, like I think people don't talk enough about, you go to the gym to lift weights and train your muscles. You speak to somebody or a therapist to train your mind. And so I'm a big fan of doing the work and trying to, there's all these subconscious, there's all this programming that just happened to you all throughout your life. And there's things that you are subconsciously doing or don't even see that is holding you back. And so when I say doing it could be many different things, right? Like I'm starting to now realize that I'm not the strongest people leader, right? And my real strength is in marketing, product creation, not so much developing and building upon a product, but creating it, bringing it to life, that commercial outcome, that exchange in value, networking, meeting people, creating content. These are the things that are my strengths, but also not only are they my strengths, there's probably quite a strong alignment with my strengths because I enjoy them. Like if I look at my life and I chart my life, a lot of the time of my life, I would do things that I didn't enjoy and I wasn't very good at it, and then I didn't really succeed. Like, so, Foundr is the first thing that I would say is my biggest success, right? Like my parents, I remember my mum, she used to say like, oh, Nathan, I wish you had more ambition. Like you see how ambitious I am now. Or she, my dad used to joke that with family friends that if things don't work out for Nathan, we can get him a Jim's Mowing franchise, right? And I ended up interviewing Jim. There's his book right there, right? And signed copy of the book. And that's not to say anything against anyone who's got a Jim's Mowing franchise, but it's more the fact that, we'd buy Nathan a franchise because he doesn't know what else to do, or he's probably not going to succeed. So it was only through finding Foundr and the work that I loved that I became good at it. And I think that there's a lot to say in that, right? Like I think sometimes in the early days of a business is you do have to do things you hate. And I'm not saying I still won't do things that I hate, but when you get a business to a certain point, you have the luxury to buy back your time or outsource or hand over the responsibility to somebody else that can do a better job. And that's how you can build a big business, right? It's surrounding yourself with great people. So that could be either you have a couple of great co-founders, or you have a great leadership team, or you have a couple of great co-founders and a leadership team, and all of these things compound. And that's how you build businesses, man. Like if you want to scale a business, it starts with the people. That's obviously starts with the person, but then as it grows, it starts with the people.
What made you realize you weren't a people leader?
I'm a people leader, but I'm just not as strong. It's just not. It just doesn't come naturally to me, and I'm not that good at it because I don't really enjoy it. Right? Like I started Foundr to first of all, I wanted to find work that I enjoyed, and then secondly, I wanted to share these incredible interviews that I was doing with the world, and then I really kind of understood the entrepreneur's journey going through my own experiences, and it is so tough that I wanted to just keep interviewing people selfishly and learn. And then I wanted to keep sharing that with the world and build this amazing community and this movement. And it's just like, well, how cool would it be if I created this brand that helps so many people at scale? And that's what we're building, right? Like how can we become a global leader that supports and creates entrepreneurs? And I love to create. So like I could build this brand, and then off the back of this brand, I've created this, incredible learning platform called Foundr Plus. But then off the back of that, I'm sure we can get into agency services and build software and, have a fund. And like, there's all these, like, that's me. Like, that's what excites me. And like, you got to do the work, but that's Nathan, right? So it's not that I am not a people leader. I'm definitely a people leader, but I'm just not strong at it, and I don't enjoy it. What I enjoy and why I started Foundr was to create a company that helps people to market and create products that help people. And that kind of, people leadership side is not a strength of mine. And it's not uncommon for a founder to bring on a CEO or to elevate to a chairman or chairwoman or chairperson, right? Like it's not uncommon, and I think that's not spoken about enough. If you are a solo founder, like a lot of the people that you and I watch online, personal brands, successful business people, a lot of them don't really have co-founders. Have you noticed that? They're solid like individuals. Alex Hormozi is an interesting one. Like he's got his wife Layla, but she has a brand too, right? But there's some, but like a lot of them are solo, right? They're doing it solo, and it's it's not easy. It's not easy.
On the topic of not talking about it enough, I think it was episode 404 you did with Scooter Bronson, I think it was. Scooter Braun, sorry.
Yeah.
Who you referenced a few times in previous podcasts as someone that left an impact on you. You also asked him, what is one thing you wish people would talk more about Justin Bieber? So on that topic, is there something you wish people would talk more about how you started Foundr and even the mindset and the belief that you went in with going into it?
Yeah. A lot of people look at the millions of followers, the famous founders, the cool design, all this stuff. The brand looks really cool, and we've done a great job with it. And a lot of people, it looks like I'm absolutely killing it, and there has been times where I haven't been, and a lot of people think, oh wow, that must They just don't truly understand how hard it is or how hard it's been to get here. Like, and also a lot of people don't ask me enough about like, what did I do before? Right? Like I say, you know, I started a magazine and all these other things, but like, what did I really do to get me to building Foundr? Like, I did a lot of deep work on myself, right? Like, I've spoken about, and what I loved about that interview with Scooter Braun is he was really open about that deep work he did on himself, how he found the Hoffman Institute. And I looked that up. I never did it, but it looks really interesting. And, you know, a lot of this stuff goes back to your childhood and all these different things. And that's, you know, what he was really open about, which was really, really cool to hear a founder talk about that and talk about how his parents were Holocaust survivors and he had this kind of constant fear instilled in him that he was kind of always just pushing, just strive forward and worrying what's going to happen next, what's going to happen next. So I thought it was amazing, amazing interview. So I can talk about some of the work that I've done on myself.
Yeah, well, you commented on that on another podcast, quote unquote. A lot of people don't ask me about the deep work I did in myself before starting the business.
Yeah. So, okay. So before I started Foundr, I was 23, 24. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, but I didn't feel like I'd evolved into a man. Like I was the age of a man, but I didn't feel like a masculine man. So I stumbled across this idea of men's work. And there's some fantastic literature and books. There was this life-changing book that I read called The Way of the Superior Man by David Data. Or there was another book that I really enjoyed called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. And it's just kind of like a holistic viewpoint on like what it means to develop as a man, because you know, there used to be a lot of rituals for you know, and initiations and all sorts of things for a boy to become a man, like in a lot of tribal you know, in tribes and all these different things, and that's kind of been lost with culture. And so what happens in society is you have these I guess from a physical standpoint, somebody could look like a man, but they haven't done the inner work to really, what does it mean to be a truly masculine man? And what does it even mean to be a truly masculine man? And this is kind of like something that it struck my curiosity. So I did a lot of work on myself. I did workshops. I did a lot of reading. And one of the things that I really kind of started with before this idea, I want to start a business, I want to get rich, or any of this rubbish that you see online, it was like, well, a man has a purpose. You know, one of my mentors, Tony, who I met on the train from what he was working at Connex at the time. I was reading a book, a men's work book, and I was on the train, and he saw that I read the book. I got off at Greensborough Station, and he got off at the same station, and he tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, that's a really cool book." He's like, if you're into that stuff, you should read this other book. And, you know, become friends. He's still a mentor to this day. Incredible guy. And honestly, Tony was just like, he taught me, like, he was like, look, there's two things that a man needs to know and two questions that he needs to know the answer to. The first one is, where is he going? And the second one is, who's coming with him? And in that order, right? So before I started Foundr, I needed to know, what is my life's purpose? What am I meant to do? Because it's not about starting a business. It's about finding work you're passionate about, and it's finding something that lights you up every single day, that it doesn't even feel like work. And that's why I started Foundr. I think sometimes people get lost where they look at the accolades, and there's so much crap on social media and so many people trying to sell you a vision of an incredible lifestyle that's what you think that you want, right? But what you really want deep down in your core, if I'm speaking for a man or a guy, but I believe what you really want deep down in your core is to find your life's passion, to find your purpose in life. And if you can make a living from that, then that's how you live a fulfilled life, right? Like you said to me offline that you didn't know this podcast would go anywhere, but you're really drawn to it. I assume you're not making hardly any money from it. Why you keep doing it, right? How that is a gift. so many people, like 60, 70, probably 80, 90% of people in this world, on this planet right now, are asleep and they're not doing work that they enjoy, right? And that's, I think, one of the first things that I did the work. I was seeking less. I need to start a business. I need to become this person. I need to be perceived by others as this person. I need to have these material objects. I need to do all these things to please or impress or improve upon others. And I was like, no, what does Nathan need? What does Nathan want? What lights Nathan up? Because right now, I was not living a fulfilled life. And that's where it started. And so the work that I did was a self-development journey, and somehow entrepreneurship and business found me. And I think a lot of the time people go the other way around, where they're like, I want to start a business and I want to make this amount of money because I want to live a life of freedom, fun, adventure. And you can have all these things, but that's how I found my way to doing what I do, because it started with life purpose and being on my mission.
You mentioned childhood trauma before.
Yeah.
Is that anything you went through?
No. Well, look, you know what? Everyone has had things like challenges in their life, right? No one is immune to having challenges, struggles. But no, I never had any childhood trauma. My family was amazing. My dad, very loving. My mum, super loving. My mum's a nurse. My dad's a teacher. No, I never had any childhood trauma. But everybody has experienced challenges or things that have happened to them that shapes how they view the world. And some of those things hold you back. And it might not be, particularly childhood trauma, but it's something that shaped your view. And if you can find that, it can be an incredible unlock. And that's where, there's I see a lot of stuff around with like founders doing like psilocybin as a form of therapy. And like, even like Steve Jobs used to be into all this kind of like, it's a thing, because they say, I was reading that, entrepreneurs and founders, the people that it's not for everyone. This is not for everyone. And, a lot of founders have chips on their shoulder. A lot of founders have things that they're working through, and they feel like they have something to prove.
You referenced before challenges that shaped your view of the world. In episode 500, you said a guest that is a good one is one that is vulnerable. Do you remember that?
No,
really,
man. Yeah, tell me what was it? What did I say? I can't remember.
You said an incredible guest is a vulnerable founder who can talk about interesting, fascinating stories, really open up and share about the hard times, the lessons they learn, and the battle scars they have to prove it. Can you tell me a challenge that shaped your view of the world?
Around founder or life in general? Okay.
Or founder as well, maybe both.
Okay. So I've had my fair share of challenges. I'm just thinking about what one I could share that perhaps would be in the context of where I am today. There are lots. All right, fuck it. I'm going to go with the first one that comes to mind, but I don't usually talk about this stuff. Okay. All right, I've never talked about this publicly. Okay, so when I tried to grow Foundr, I brought on a really like big dog, like kind of right-hand chief operating officer type, and he had incredible accolades, did really, really well in corporate. And I really kind of thought this person could help the business grow. And, we had some challenges, as businesses do. They have ups and downs, all sorts of things. And it just didn't work, right? It just didn't work. And it was very, very difficult to unwind, right? Like I had to unwind it all, and we had to go our separate ways. And that was an incredible challenge because, you know, it was becoming really, really damaging to the business if I didn't make that change. And what that lesson taught me was that you think if you have a problem in your business or even in life, right, that, you know, even if you're paying someone an exorbitant amount of money and the best, and I often get I used to get so excited, this person's going to change the game and they're going to do everything. There is no magic team member that's going to change everything overnight. And, you know, I gave up like way too much responsibility far too quickly, and it just didn't work and it went the wrong way. And what I realized is like the only person that's going to be responsible for taking things to where I want them to go is me. And if I hand that over, I need to have people prove themselves, but then also I need to back me more than ever because I built this thing and I can take it to the next level. But, you know, that just because somebody is like, you know, had all these accolades, whatever, you don't just openly give up so much responsibility and power straight away. It has to be earned. And yeah, I had to come back to kind of like, you know, going forward, I'll never do that again. I'll never give away that much responsibility and power and decision making unless it's, you know, it's really proven, right? So I see that in other areas of life as well. But yeah, in particular when it comes to growing Foundr. So as I said, businesses are built by people, right? And more than ever now, I have had these self-reflections and realized like, if I'm going to really build this thing into a global leading brand in the next 3 to 5 years and really scale this thing, I need to find the best possible people around me. Not that I don't have great people already, but I really just keep building more leaders, more people that can go on this journey. And a leader isn't necessarily a good people manager. They could be someone that's not managing anyone, but there's somebody that challenges others. There's somebody that lifts. There's somebody that can take on responsibility. They can take ownership. They can drive things. They can grow. And that's what I'm looking to do now. I'm just looking to develop as many leaders as possible in this company to build an incredible business that serves a lot of people at scale. And as I do that, responsibility is given, not like, you know, you don't get it straight away, right? Give you a little bit of a go, prove yourself, bang, off we go, next thing. Like I'm really all about building leaders and building people and surrounding myself with great quality people. And I care about what you've done, but far less now. Right? Just because somebody's done some whiz-bang thing, so what? I've seen a lot of things now. Like I've been in business for over 10 years. Like show me, right? Show me what you can do, right? I think that's really, really, really important. And I think this is a rite of passage. The amount of founder friends that I've spoken to that, you know, try to build their leadership team or they want to go to that next level. Because what you find, right, is once your business gets between, depending on the size, depending on the scale scope, anywhere between, you know, 5 million upwards of $20 million a year annually, you need to build like a really solid team to get you to that, you know, 50 to 100 mil range. And you've got two choices. You either promote from within, which can work sometimes, but that it takes a certain type of person that can level up and grow to become that leader. Like there's this guy, Zach, he's like the CMO at Canva. He's been there since early days. You know, me and him have spoke before, but I've watched from afar LinkedIn, his journey. You can go and look, I think his name's like Zach O'Brien at Canva, and you can see he started as like, I think an intern, and he's now CMO of like a multi-billion dollar company. But so he was obviously consistently promoted within and grew with the business. Now that doesn't happen as regularly, but it's what you want. It's the best outcome because that person's grown with the business. You know them, you trust them, you've seen them execute. But that doesn't happen as regularly. Or you bring in somebody outside, which is more riskier, but they've seen the Matrix. They've seen the movie. Ideally you want to bring in somebody outside that has scaled a business before, that has seen the different stages, because there's a lot of similar stages. Doesn't matter the industry, doesn't matter the type of business, there's a lot of similar things that happen. Now, if they know the industry, even better. And so, I've spoken to so many successful founder friends that have tried to scale their business, build their leadership team, and they've hired these flashy execs or people that have worked in corporate, and then they come to a business that is a scale-up or like a startup, and they struggle, man. Just absolutely struggle. I've broken every rule in the book there. And so now I've become really obsessed with the quality of the human being, the values, and just really trying to just work with good people that are awesome. Not saying you don't, but really cool people. Like, I want to build an environment where it's just fun to work and the people you work with are fun to work with and there's cool people, and they play to win.
Do you find it hard to trust people?
Depends in the situation. I give away trust too easily, and that's something that I have to get better at. But depends on the circumstance and the situation. But no, I don't find it hard to trust people.
Alex Hormozy said, on the topic of Alex Hormozy, how I started: focus on one thing. Hire smart people, think long term. Focus is even harder when opportunities grow like weeds. They must be trimmed. What you think smart looks like at 100K per year is very different from what smart looks like at 100 million per year. What feels like long-term thinking when you start out is a quarter and eventually becomes multiple years or decades. Some lessons are like wine. They age and develop with time.
Yeah. So I think Hormozy's pretty spot on there. So I've found that I've had to, when it comes to growing Foundr, I was caught for many years in this short-term thinking cycle. And now more than ever, we play longer-term moves. And he's so right. The more seeds that you plant to play those longer-term moves, the more they pay off, like the more bigger payoff over time. And if you can get yourself in a position with your business, and it's not easy, that you're just constantly thinking long-term, then that's how you win, right? Because that's when execution is solid. And that's something that I've realized within myself is I'm great at executing Nathan or Nathan with a couple of people, but leading through teams or leading through leaders, I've found that to be a challenge. And that's where I think, once again, we go back to that self-awareness, right? Like, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What do I need to double down on? And what do I need to let go of? And so, thinking long-term, the more you can think long-term, the longer game you play it's worth its weight in gold. Now, I don't get to decades. I'm not playing like decades yet. But, what Hormozy is talking about is spot on. It's interesting. I think it's very, very difficult to play in decades from a business standpoint. Like, I don't know what that would look like from decades for me, but definitely in years, I'm thinking, am I doing the stuff to line it up? Probably not as much as I should. In a 1 year, yes. A 2 year, yes. But like multiple 3, 4, 5, nah, I'm not. And I need to get better at that. But that's how you can get your execution solid. Because at the end of the day, man, all of this stuff is about execution. If you can't execute, then you ain't going to win. And it's not just about I used to get so confused and think execution means it gets done. It's not about getting it done. It's about making it transformational, right? How do you actually no, it's not like, oh, I launched the product. It's like, no, I've launched the product and people are loving it and the reviews are off the chain and the product's super impactful and people want to keep paying for this product. Like, that's quality execution, not just, oh, I've launched the product. And so I've found that Nathan, I struggle to execute through like, a whole massive group of people. But you give me one little thing to focus on where it's just me and you lock me in a room, I'll get it done. So you can start to see how like I can see where my strengths are, my weaknesses are, and I'm a typical kind of visionary entrepreneur type or visionary founder type. That's who I am. I'm a creator at heart. That's what I'm really good at. I'm not an operator. I'm not good at that operational stuff.
In the beginning, I didn't know how I was going to differentiate myself. All I knew is that I wanted to create a magazine and that podcasts were hot. And there were a lot of questions that I wanted to answer myself. I really had to figure things out over time. And along the way, I fine-tuned and refined what's working and really doubled down on it.
Yep, that's spot on. So when I first started, as I said, I went deep on myself. I did the work. And at first, I found this guy whose name was Ed Dale. And he created this thing called the 30-Day Challenge. And it was big, like 10, 15 years ago. And what it was this challenge. Challenges have come back in a big way. We do a lot of challenges at Foundr now. What it was that this 30-day challenge, like a video course where you got one video a day for 30 days, teaching you how to make your first $1 online. It was brilliant. And basically what it taught you was affiliate marketing. And I created this website called bestsmellingcologne.net. And it was an absolute joke. And the reason I created bestsmellingcologne.net was because I saw that there was a keyword with a decent amount of traffic and low competition. So I believed that I could rank for it on Google. And then I was going to have ads on my website to review. I was reviewing colognes, and I was going to have ads on my website and talk about finding your life purpose. But I knew, right? Why did I do that? Because I knew that I was passionate about marketing. I knew that I was passionate about technology. So I was like, what if I merge online business and technology with marketing? Because I studied a master's of marketing. And so I somehow found this guy who was doing this thing about how to make your first dollar online. And then also people were telling me when I was going for marketing jobs, I think it would be really cool if you created your own thing or tried to market your own thing. So I was going down this path. And then this guy, he was doing a seminar in Melbourne. The guy grew up in Moonee Ponds. And I went to this seminar and he talked about how he was creating this software that allowed you to create your own online magazine on the App Store and Google Play Store. And I thought, wow, that's a fantastic idea. And so I was living with my housemate at the time, Ben. I was best mate at his wedding.
Horse trainer?
Yeah, no, not a
commentator.
Yeah, Ben Asghari. And he's on racing.com every day. And I was like, man, let's do something together. Let's create a horse racing magazine. And that's what we were going to do. But then he just got a job at racing.com. See how I said it starts with finding the work, the passion first, and the business found me. And the work found me, and that's what drove me. And then that didn't work out because he got a job at racing.com and he couldn't dedicate. And then I was like, well, I can't do – Ben was going to be the subject matter expert. I can't do anything on horse racing. All right, what if I do something around business and entrepreneurship? What if I make myself my own case study? I'm really interested in this stuff. I'm going to start interviewing people. And that's what I did. I knew podcasts were hot back then. Like, it's crazy to think podcasts were hot back then. There was a guy called Pat Flynn. His podcast was massive, still is, but like nowhere near as big as some of these other, Dire CEOs. There's other big ones now, but it was massive. And I was just like, I started interviewing people, man. I used to use Skype. There was no Zoom. And, I had my Skype username. People had to add me, and I used this software called Pamela. I didn't do video interviews because I was too afraid and too nervous of my background and that people would realize that I was just this kid just running this little shitty magazine just for fun. And I started just doing these interviews. And then I launched the magazine. It took me about a year to get it ready and launch it. I was procrastinating. I was really slow. I was stumbling. I went through 3 different designers. And on the first day that I launched the magazine, I made $5.50. And the first edition, it didn't have a successful person on the front cover. And it was a stock image. And I was like, okay, I've got 2 subscribers to this magazine. I'm the kind of person that doesn't want to let other people down, or like, like that. I couldn't think like it was without a question, Darcy, that if someone paid me for something for my first business and they were paying for a monthly subscription, I needed to deliver. So I worked fucking night and day because I was working like my day job. I was, not sleeping to create the next edition of this magazine. And then it's like, well, now after the end of the month, I made like $80. I've got like maybe 15 subscribers. Like, well, fuck, I've got to keep going. And whether I liked it or not, I had to keep going. And that is what forced me to keep building this brand. And each edition got better, and each part of the brand and the content got better. And through pure repetition, I just worked it out along the way.
After Chan got 20 subscribers during the first month the magazine was live, he realised it had the potential to be more than a side hustle.
Yeah. So, I realised it had the potential. Did I truly believe? Only when I got an interview with Richard Branson.
An email interview.
Yeah, email interview. Wasn't a lot of people think it's a video audio interview. It was only email. And I took that and ran with it, and I made it free. That was one of the smartest things I ever did in the early days. I made it free. I heard from this guy called Eben Pagan, great marketer. He says that he had this concept called moving the free line. And it's effectively find your best stuff and give it away for free. And that's how you bring people into your world. And that's what I did. So instead of charging for the Branson edition, I made it free, and that's what I led with, and that's how I built the brand. So every interaction for a long time, for the first couple of years, get your free Branson edition, get your free Branson edition. And it built authority for the brand. And worked it out along the way, as I said, man.
What advice would you give to your younger self when you started? And do you think your younger self would truly understand the advice that you're giving?
I like to think that I'm pretty receptive to advice. I'm a big knowledge seeker, but I would have been receptive, but I probably wouldn't have understood it or absorbed it, because sometimes a lot of these things I've found that for me personally, sometimes I just have to learn things the hard way for it to really sink in. But look, I think it's like the train that I'm on now, man. Like just keep surrounding yourself with really, really great people. And I was lucky. I did in those early days. I did. Like I met Dave, who was our head of marketing for like 5-6 years. He was fantastic to help me build the brand, right? I met Jesse, right? He's still with us, right? I met Charlie, who you met, right? Like I think if I could have just been more of a collector of really solid people, and just better at seeing people and their talent and where to best utilize them, that would have been golden, right? Now, more than ever, I'm just like, it's not the strategy, it's not the tactic, it's the person, right? Find the person and I'll get you the outcome, right? You want the outcome, find the person. You, as the founder, can only do so many things really, really well, right? So that's what that's the train I'm on right now. Find the person and I'll show you the outcome.
You asked on Instagram, the best businesses ask the best questions.
Yeah. So I think being curious is something that is so incredibly important in business, right? And just constantly reinventing the status quo. So if I look at businesses that are absolutely killing it, they're not resting on their laurels, right? And I think that's sometimes been a mistake that I've made. Like one of our values at Foundr is being curious, right? How can we do this better? And there's been times where, things are really good and, like we're killing it and this channel's crushing it. And I'm kind of like, oh, let's move to the next thing, right? That's sorted, right? And I think we're talking about focus. Like if you compound that with focus and just do a couple of things really, really, really well, it's amazing what kind of results you can achieve. So I think, yeah, the best businesses are really curious and they ask the best questions internally around how can we keep growing? How can we keep serving our customers better? What's coming next? How can we keep growing this business, right? And I'm not saying that nobody, like all businesses are asking that question, but like really going deep, like really looking within all these things that are constraints. Like what is it? What is the constraint? What is the constraint? Who's the person? What is the constraint? Who's the person? Who's owning this? How do we fix it? What's the constraint? What's the constraint? And yeah, I think comes back to it, man. I keep saying the same thing, right? The best businesses, they got the best people, got the best talent. There's a reason that like all of these big startups, right? The ones that are big now, they pay so much money to bring people on board because they know that like one person could equal 10 or 20 people, right? They could do the work or the output or the outcome of 10 or 20 people. So if you get 5 people like that, imagine how much that could compound. So, you know, there's this concept called like the 10x developer, right? It actually exists, right? There are developers like that can do the work or get the outcomes of 10, you know, average developers, right? So, you know, how can you do that? That's what I'm really thinking about a lot. But yeah, the best businesses ask the best questions for sure.
You mentioned earlier that you get something good and then people say it's good and then you like move on to the next thing. Does that come back to contentment? Like, what do you think it is?
I don't know. I'm the kind of person, and it's just the way I'm wired, where I like to just like, if something's going good, it's just like, okay, now move to the next thing. But sometimes I think it's not always the case. It's just kind of like, how can you just focus on a couple of things and something's going good? How can we make it better? And having the courage to go, okay, if it goes backwards or it doesn't work, that's okay. But yeah, I still, you know, I'm a recovering shiny object syndrome individual, right? And it's tough because new is fun, it's fresh, it's exciting, and it's just this constant sugar hit. And it's such a battle to be to want to, you know, do so many different things, like living in my mind where I want to do so many different things because it's fun and that's what I love to do. I love to create, right? I love to market. I love to grow like something. And so, yeah, I don't know if it's contentment. It's just more like I think a lot of founders, they have this shiny object syndrome and it's only until you really kind of realize the power of focus. And, you know, I've been very focused with Foundr. I started another business with my girlfriend, my ex now, and that was more of a case study to show people how to, you know, and like a thing to prove to myself that, like, you know, instead of just talking about a business and like, you know, was I lucky with Foundr, I did it again very it went really, really well. But yeah, in terms of focus, I've been pretty focused on the business Foundr, but all the different things inside it, it's been like a playground. And that's good for Nathan, but not necessarily good for Foundr. And yeah, so that's what has happened sometimes where something's doing well and it's like, all right, now move to the next thing. It's just like, well, how do you do well? Like, all right, I'll give you a great example. Foundr podcast. Foundr podcast, I think if I had more focus, it'd be way bigger than it is right now, right? I have had the Foundr podcast on autopilot for a very, very, very long time. I was one of the, there were people, but I was one of the few that was interviewing the kind of caliber guests that now podcasts are so big, it's kind of normal to get like a lot of high caliber guests. I didn't really capitalize on that. I didn't really focus that much on trying to grow it that much. that's a great example, right? It's like, oh, I've got this podcast, I've got this magazine, I've got an autopilot. Let's move to the next thing.
You spoke about the thoughts running around in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Do you struggle like me to relax?
Nope. I get excited easily. Like I love this stuff. Like I love this stuff. It's so much fun. But nah, man, like me and my girlfriend, we were playing like Fortnite. I got back into Fortnite. I haven't played in a long time. Used to play with my brother. Like I have no problems going to the beach, having a holiday, relaxing.
Okay.
Yeah, I experienced pretty deep burnout, which I think I mentioned. We talked about it actually. I experienced pretty deep burnout after COVID. A lot of people at home, found a lot of people thinking about starting a business. Foundr was a great resource for people. So inherently the business grew. And I was like just hiring people and just working around the clock, didn't have anything else to do. And it was a crazy time. And then early 2021, COVID was still around, but I was starting to, build a business still. I just started waking up with my heart beating really fast. And I was like, wow, why is this happening? And what I come to realize is I was burnt out and I actually didn't even want to go to work. And here's a guy that tells you about the passion and his life purpose. And I didn't want to do that. And it wasn't a reflection of the work itself. It was a reflection of I'd just been running myself into the ground because for that first 7 years of Foundr, there was no off switch. But I could relax when I was on holiday. But yeah, now more than ever, I'm a big fan of recharging. So I can relax, but no, it's more I get excited. I just love this space. I love this stuff. I love the work. I love being able to do work that I'm passionate about. I love the business that we're building. It's really exciting.
I asked that question because I've been told that I'm crazy with what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I get the sense that you were probably told that. And it's probably to the detriment of perhaps those around you and your close friendship group because you prioritize what you're building over that sort of stuff.
Yeah, look, that's been an interesting one. So I've found as years have gone on and the more I've really built Foundr, you get out and about and you meet people, I've found that a lot of my closest friends are founders. I still have a lot of, or a couple of really close childhood friends, and then a lot of friends that I knew well before Foundr I still hang out with. But I tend to gravitate and naturally speak to friends that are founders a bit more. It just depends, but I still have friends that I grew up with that I still speak to, but it's a little different. As I was building Foundr, even though I worked crazy hours, like 80-hour weeks at least, what I did do was I said to myself, or it just happened that I very, very rarely said no. Like if there was a social event or something to go to, I always went. So I didn't let that sacrifice my ability to connect with friends that perhaps don't fully understand what it means to build a business. But it was different too, right? From that age of 18 to 23, 24, I went pretty hard at partying and travel and living life. I wish I still, that's a regret. You talk about regrets. I wish I traveled more back then, right? That's a regret. I should have traveled more. I didn't travel enough. But yeah, I went pretty hard, and then I was going into building my career, and I was going down this marketing path, and then, I started Foundr in my mid-20s. And by that stage, what I found is it's not the same. You're not you don't have as many social events. You don't catch up with the boys. I don't know if you find this, but you don't catch up with the boys every weekend type thing. And so everyone gets older. Everyone starts to, have kids, family, relationships get pretty serious at that age. Not saying you don't do that. Like I have friends that are still having a great time, but yeah, what you find is that's how things kind of go. So I inherently did still have time for that too, but yeah, your friends and family don't get it in the early days. But it's funny. I tell you what is funny is when you start winning, how people get around you, and when you start winning, how all these people out of the woodworks that if you weren't winning, you probably wouldn't have ever spoken to again, start, wanting to catch up, or that's interesting.
When you're on your way up, everyone roots for you because you remind them of their dreams. When you're at the top, everyone tears you down because you remind them of what they gave up on.
Depends. Do you think in Australia we have tall poppy syndrome?
In what sense?
That people that succeed aren't really celebrated as much amongst friendship groups or supporting each other, and what happens then is you feel guilty or you feel bad or you're embarrassed because you don't want to make people feel less for whatever reason. Do you think
100%?
Yeah. So I think that exists to an extent. Yeah, for sure. And that's more of a cultural thing in Australia. Like America is very different. America, you're encouraged a bit more to give it a go and to fail and the American dream. Like that's the thing. Like the great American dream is a thing, right? Americans are very patriotic, but it's definitely a thing. Australia has a bit more of a laid back culture. It is different.
I feel like an outcast.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But I have a close group of friends.
Yeah.
Which is getting smaller.
Yeah, no. I've never felt like an outcast, man. I felt
different.
Yeah, okay,
different.
yeah. I definitely feel different, but I think that's a reflection of me and Nathan, and less about the fact that I want to build business and all those kinds of things. But at the same time, there's a lot of great people that are interested in this kind of stuff in Melbourne, or that you connect with online. Like, it's crazy. The people that I've met and built relationships online. Like I did a couple of interviews this morning, one with a girl her name's Cody Sanchez, and she's like absolutely killing it. And like, she interviewed me for her podcast like 5-6 years ago, and I was like, wow, like we haven't spoken in ages, and I was like, like we knew each other, right? I've met most of these kind of big time personalities online and stuff, and I know a lot of them, friends with a lot of them, and you can make it's an interesting space, the podcasting world, the creator space, all these different spaces. That's cool. That's what's cool about the power of the internet, man. Like, perhaps your community is not as big as you'd like it to be in Melbourne, but there's a lot of cool people in Melbourne. I'll tell you that, right? There's a lot of cool people in Melbourne doing a lot of cool, interesting things. But even if you're not into like building an online business or starting a podcast or whatever it is, you can use the power of the internet to join communities, right? And that's what's really cool. And you can make really cool friends, right? Like I've got some fantastic friends that I've met over the internet, and we meet in person, and we've known each other and we know each other so well that it's not even like, you don't even think, hey, I met this person on the internet. It's crazy, right?
Have you heard Chris Williamson talk about the Lonely Chapter?
No, but I like his stuff.
He talks about the Lonely Chapter being the growth that you go through when your mindset is developing. It's the section between where your mindset's developing, but it's not yet established enough that you've developed a new set of friends. Yeah,
so in the early days Foundr, so here's something really interesting. In the early days Foundr, I was on fire, man. Like, I was absolutely on fire, and things were moving so fast, but I was loving it, and I was keeping up with the pace. That it just happened organically that I didn't really experience what Chris is talking about. However, I know exactly that transition, and I went through that transition, but I didn't feel lonely. But I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, the crazy thing is, yeah, I've experienced the most personal growth and professional growth with Foundr in the early days, purely because I was in my happy place, and that's what I'm trying to get back to. Yeah.
What are some things in the early days that you worried about that seem trivial now?
Oh, so many things, dude. Like, yeah, I've got a habit of sweating the small stuff. And like, if I could go back and just not worry about the detail, like the fine detail of like so many little things, yeah, I would, once again, found it would be a much bigger business.
You can
I think, yeah. What's that?
Keep going.
What was I going to say?
No, keep going.
I was going to say, like, I think, yeah, that's something I think first-time founders experience, right? You want to control it all because it's your baby, especially first-time solo founders. You want to control it all. And, yeah, from experience, it's not possible. And, yeah, I'm sounding like a broken record. It's the people. It's all the people, man.
I'm going to struggle with that. Meticulous.
Well, maybe here's the difference, right? Maybe if you build intentionally, that's okay, right? There are some people that don't want to have staff and they just want to be a solo creator and maybe work with a few contractors. And maybe that's what you want to do, right? And if you just work with a few contractors and, you know, I know you working on some stuff, like that's actually okay too, right? It depends. Situational stage advice. This is something that Mitch taught me, one of my old mentors. He was co-founder of Big Commerce, ended up listing that on the NASDAQ, would be, you know, probably not far from a billionaire, right? I used to get coaching and mentoring from him. I used to pay him $5,000 a month for one phone call. One phone call and unlimited access to him on DMs, or like this app called Voxer. And he taught me something called situational stage advice, where just because you hear somebody or you hear some, you know, words of wisdom from a podcast, or like Hormozi says you should do this, well, it depends on what stage you're at in business, right? Like, it's easy for Hormozi to give out so much content, create so much content, do that stuff for free, right? And not try and charge. But if you're in the early stage of your business and you're getting your business going, you probably don't have to create as much content as him. You just need to focus on, you know, creating an awesome product that solves a problem, and then just find one traction channel and rinse, repeat, and ratchet up that channel until you got nothing left, right? You don't have to worry about creating free content. You know what I mean? But if you listen to him, he's all about creating free content, more content, more content, more content, right? So situational stage advice. However, if you've got that product and you've got a couple of channels and now you're looking for your next channel, you've got a team and they're managing everything else, maybe it makes sense to going founder-led, creating content, building your personal brand, right? So situational stage advice. It depends on what situation you're in. I'll tell you this, man. When I first started Foundr, for the first couple of years, especially that first year and a half or year or two, when I went full-time on it, those were some of the funnest times ever, right? I didn't have any staff. I only had contractors. I eventually hired my first full-time employee, JC. He's had the last name as me, Jonathan Chan. And I met him at an event, knew nothing, and I thought he was a cool guy. I thought he was a cool guy that had hustle, so I gave him a job. What sort of fucking idiot was I? Like, and it worked out. Like, he was a great guy. But yeah, like, honestly, those were some of the funnest times, right? And that's some of the times where I had the most growth. And I used to just work until 3 a.m. and then wake up at like 10 and then, you know, like just have some lunch and then, you know, hang out with my family or something like that. And then just like, because I moved back home when I went full-time at Foundr, on Foundr, I was working out of home. I was working out of home, and then I went full-time on Foundr, and I was going to move to another place, and I had a falling out with my housemate. And so I moved back to my parents' place temporarily. It was some of the funnest times. I look back with those memories so fondly. It was the best. So yeah, I'd have breakfast, do some work, then have lunch with my family. My dad might make like some food or whatever, and then I go back, work all night, work all day, work all night, and then might see my girlfriend or whatever, and then rinse, repeat. That was my Monday, Friday. It was the best. It was so much fun. And I used to smash out so much work. Hardly didn't have any meetings. And that's what I'm going to get back to, right? That's what I'm going to get back to. And that is the time when I found out its most growth. It was everywhere. It was so cool. I was having so much fun. I was in my strength zone. It was awesome. Some of the best times. So it depends, right? Sometimes, yeah, it depends. And it comes down to that kind of idea of, really understanding your strengths and weaknesses, really leaning into that. But, I could tell you this, but it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. Sometimes you just have to work this stuff out. It's just part of the journey.
You can still succeed by building slowly. Start with a side project, be frugal, build up your income until you can quit your 9 to 5. Success doesn't have to be crazy. It can be realistic.
Yeah.
Your words.
That couldn't be further from the truth, man. That couldn't be closer. That couldn't be closer to the truth, right? I think so often people want to start a business and they want it to make all these sales yesterday, and they're not patient, and it just takes time. I never forget, I launched Foundr, it was like I said, like $80, $50, whatever it was in the first month, and then 120 in the second month and all that kind of stuff. Most people give up, right? Most people would give up, but I kept going because of those subscribers, not wanting to let those people down. And one of the first subscribers actually emailed me a while ago and said, "Hey, Nathan, I was one of the first subscribers," and proved it to me. It was crazy. And most people, they just want success literally yesterday, and they launch their product or service or whatever, and it's just like, hey, it's not working. And I remember bumping into Lucy, who I was working with her at Intrepid, and she helped me write the questions in the article and the interview piece for Richard Branson. And I bumped into her at the lift because there was 2 floors of the building. And she said, how's Foundr going? I said, yeah, it's getting there. And she's like, it'll take time, but it's going to get big. And I'm like, yeah, I can't wait. I'm just waiting. I'm just patient. I just want it so bad. She's like, you've got to be patient, Nathan. It was so true. And I remember when I launched Healthish, time-marked water bottle, that product over there, right? We had a couple of grand in the first month, but it took a few months to get going. You just have to be patient, right? And if you know that to be true, then just do it on the side in your day job. If you want it bad enough, that's the thing. Most people don't want it bad enough. They just don't. They're too comfortable, right? People are too comfortable. It'd be nice to have my own business, right? Even those words, it would be nice. It doesn't scream somebody that's going to make it happen. It doesn't scream desperation. It doesn't scream like I've got to make this work. And sometimes that is what is required to shift you into where you want to go. I think you can build a business on the side, and it's incredibly tough, but you can have income coming in from your day job, and you can build it up slowly, and it'll get to a point in time where you are losing money working in your day job. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to get to a point in time where you are losing money working in your day job that it makes sense to quit and go all in. And then the worst that can happen is you have to get another job. That's how it's got to be. That is the most, for people that are scared, for people that are worried, for people that are afraid if it's going to work, that is the most, I think, practical way in terms of just mitigating risk and stacking the upside and minimizing the downside. And that's how it should be. That's the way to do it, right? That's what I recommend. And if you can, ideally, you have 6 months worth of runway saved. So then you have nothing to lose. And then when you go full time, you've already got traction, right? You've already got momentum. And then that becomes a massive, massive whirlwind once you start dedicating and focusing. One thing that was really interesting, though, that I found is when I went full-time on Foundr, it was really difficult to focus because you had no one telling you what to do, right? And it took me a couple of months to like actually be able to like get into a rhythm and routine of like waking up and doing work. Like I was doing it, I was enjoying it, but it felt so weird. And it did feel lonely, right? And, you know, I missed being around my colleagues. And that's another reason like I wanted to build a team because it's fun working with other people. It can be lonely when you're building something solo. Like I craved having a team, dude. I craved working with cool people and having fun with other people and having a laugh. Like they're the things that people don't talk about, right? But yeah, it was a weird transition. I remember that.
For all the most important things, the timing always sucks. Waiting for a good time to quit your job, the stars will never align and the traffic lights of life will never be all green at the same time. The universe doesn't conspire against you, but it doesn't go out of its way to line up the pins either. Conditions are never perfect. Someday is a disease that will make your dreams that will take your dreams to the grave with you. Pro and con lists are just as bad. If it's important to you and you want to do it eventually, just do it and correct the course along the way.
Yeah. So I think that really comes down to like, how bad do you want it? Like, you know, when I interviewed Tony Robbins, I asked him this question that I've been thinking about a lot because of what we do at Foundr. And it's like, there's people that just kind of want it, right? And I said to him, like, you know, you've helped people overcome so many crazy, incredible things. You've worked as a high performance coach and you've helped, you know, presidents and, you know, you've helped elite sports athletes turn things around and like create something or get that breakthrough, as he'd call it. And I was like, what's required? Like, what sort of mindset is required to get there? And he said to me, you know what, Nathan, one thing I've found is like the people that actually create the change that they want it's when they're in a lot of pain. And I think it doesn't mean you're kind of avoiding something or you're trying to run away from something, but you have to have something that drives you. And I think he's right. Like that pain, if you experience some form of pain, that is what's going to make you super hungry. And that hunger and that desperation causes you that it doesn't matter if you feel uncomfortable, you will still just smash through your comfort zone because that's where it's at. Everything we want is on the other side of our comfort zone. And it's easy to forget and it's hard to be conscious of. But when you have that feeling in your stomach of that's something I've got to do, but I don't want to do it and my body's telling me, no, I shouldn't do it, that's when you just got to do it. Like, do you know how nervous I was pitching Richard Branson's head of PR, thinking, how is my magazine worthy? Like, oh, dude, I was so nervous, but I just went for it. And it was one of the best things I ever did because that start of like building the brand all was thanks to, you know, one of the things was thanks to that Richard Branson edition. And it was one of the best things that ever happened. And it's been such a key monumental point in my journey. So I think, you know, so many people, they just don't want it bad enough, and you have to find a way to get that hunger, to have that desperation, to want to find something you're passionate about. So for me, I had this guiding principle. As a man, I need to be on my life purpose. I need to find my calling. And I know what I'm doing right now is not it. And over time, I developed a deep sense of frustration of the work that I was doing. And in life, we choose the path that we are least afraid of. And over time, I became more afraid of living a life doing work that I didn't enjoy as opposed to finding it and doing that work full time all day, every day. And that's what drove me. That's where the hunger came from. That's where the desperation came from. That's where the pain came from. I used to hate the work that I did.
I tell you.
Yeah. I used to hate it. And it wasn't me. And I had to do something about it. And it got to a point where it was so bad that I just had to make a move, right? I had to try. And I just went for it, man.
Very good chat today, man.
Oh, you're welcome. We're wrapping now.
Well, you've got a 320, don't you?
Yeah.
You've got a 320, mate. I reckon we're just scratching the bottom of the surface, to be honest. I reckon we could keep going.
Yeah.
Been a really good chat, and I reckon we have to do another one of these because, oh, mate, you talk about pain. I mean, there's a fair bit there. I think you were talking about you wanted to cry because your boss or something at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Do you reckon that was a bit of your pain came from there?
Yeah, look, for sure. So I never forget one time in IT, there was complaints because I used to be part of the service desk. There was complaints that like people would lodge a ticket and no one would, like in the IT support team, no one would answer the ticket. So people don't lodge tickets because they never get answered. So the solution was we would do rosters and walk around the office, like 2-floor office, saying, "Hey, do you need help?" And like, man, I couldn't think of anything worse. And I said, "No, I'm not going to do it," to my boss. And then my boss went and told the big boss, "Yeah, Nathan doesn't want to do it." And so I got called in and got absolutely ripped apart. Like, was told, "Do you know what a directive is?" And like, dude, like, I felt like such a piece of shit. I felt worthless. I felt like nothing. And I felt like crying. And I remember saying to one of my colleagues at the time, he was like, "How'd it go?" And he said, "Oh, my boss, who was his colleague, he said, yeah. Like his name was Nathan. He said, "Yeah, Nathan said, she got really nasty. She can get that way. And I'm sorry about that, mate." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Man, I'm never, ever going to let anyone ever talk to me like that again." Right. And yeah, dude, like there would be something in that, right? For sure, something in that. I said to myself, I'm never, ever going to let someone talk to me like that again or have that power or control over me. Like, yeah, that was fucked.
After that meeting, I literally wanted to cry. It was such a crazy feeling that someone could have that impact on my life and the power they had over me, over the work I wanted to do. And that particular story I've carried with me for my whole life because I said to myself, I never want to be in that position again.
Yeah, you nailed it. Man, where'd you find that? I don't remember talking about that one.
I went pretty deep.
Yeah, that's impressive. Yeah, look, that was tough. And yeah, it was definitely, it wasn't like the guiding principle that pushed me, but it was definitely something that fueled me. Yeah.
316, mate.
Yeah.
If you're happy to keep going, I am. But
no, I got to work towards wrapping.
You got it. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, mate. Like I said, I reckon we could keep going for a long time.
Yeah. No,
so I'll have to do another one of these one day.
Yeah,
Maybe when I'm in my own studio one day.
Yep, done.
I've got this final quote, and I want you to give a 1 minute bit of advice from it, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
Even if we were destined to live 3,000 years or 10 times that long, nevertheless remember that no one loses any life other than the one he lives, or lives any life other than the life that he loses. But the longest lived and the earliest to die suffer the same loss. It is only the present moment of which either stands to be deprived, and if this is all he has, he cannot lose what he does not have.
Look, that was a lot. Look, I think life is for living, and what I love about that quote is, I think one thing I think about when I hear that quote is when I'm on my deathbed, and I've got my, I once read this book called Dying Well, and it's about like how death is like this thing that's not really talked about, and it's a bit of a taboo topic and it's something that people fear, but the book really talks about this idea around how death can be celebrated, and you can celebrate somebody's life, and it can be a beautiful thing. And you can, there's all these stories of people in palliative care and in hospital and all sorts of crazy, beautiful things that is an amazing book. But what I took from that book and the way I think about life is like, I want to be on my deathbed and go, you know what, that was fucking good. And that's, once again, like that's a guiding principle for me. And that's, that's what I think about when I hear that quote.
Good way to end it, brother. Thanks so much for your time.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man. That was great.